AI has been hard at work, getting better at work. In today's AI update, we're going to talk about ChatGPT coming into Excel, ChatGPT Workspace Agents, Claude Design, enhancements to Copilot Cowork, and more. Let's jump in. Okay, as always, there's so much to cover in the world of AI at work. But today I'm going to cover just some highlights that I think you and I as knowledge workers will benefit the most from. ChatGPT in the OpenAI ecosystem now has a native add-in for Excel and Google Sheets, meaning you can actually use ChatGPT now in your workbooks to make changes right there on the fly. Whereas in the past, you might have to upload your file to ChatGPT, tell it what to do. It would go do some automagic and then produce a download, and you do that back and forth game. Well, now once you add it to Google Sheets or Excel, as I have here, you'll see it in the upper right in your toolbar, and you can open it up, and on the right-hand pane, you'll have a ChatGPT pane, and you can converse with ChatGPT, and it will take action in your Excel file right then and there. Now, some stuff that you need to know about. One, is that it does use skills, or it can use skills, and it can use uploaded files, but it doesn't speak to your other ChatGPT instance. What you've got going on in chat, it's your memory, your skills, all of that is separate right now. So it doesn't have those body of skills. All the skills currently available are Excel or financial related, and you can build more for this Excel or Google Sheets based use case. You also have the model picker, and it uses different language, fast, standard, heavy, which is a little bit different than the model language you're used to in chat, instant, pro, thinking, those sort of things, but basically the same sort of tiers. So know those differences, and play around with what you can do here. Personally, this is sort of massive enhancement, and ChatGPT is late. Claude got here before them, and of course, Microsoft and Gemini, Google, have been doing what they can to build native AI tools into their spreadsheet tools. And ChatGPT is just kind of later to the party. But if you're a ChatGPT user, this is a great moment to celebrate. Try it out, experiment. It's pretty powerful. All right, also in ChatGPT, and this one's a pretty big one, and we're not gonna have time to really dive into this today, but Workspace Agents have now launched. Okay, so what this basically means is OpenAI knows a lot about work now. AI in the workspace is really growing. We've heard about a lot of autonomous AI tools. Maybe you've heard of OpenClaw and all the stuff happening in the Claude ecosystem. Well, this is OpenAI starting to move more and more into, hey, we're going to help you develop autonomous AI tools for work use cases. Now, there's a lot to read and digest and go through here, but it's all about building a more autonomous, meaning an AI tool that doesn't need a lot of handholding for you, but they can do really meaningful things for you in the workplace. And you can see in their article, they've got a lot of stuff that's possible. Let's go to ChatGPT now. And on the left-hand side over here, you're going to see the Agents section. And click Browse Agents. And here you can kind of navigate what you want to accomplish. But I recommend you start with templates to get an idea of what's possible here. Chief of Staff is a great one to start with. I've played around with it a little bit. Ultimately, what you need to know is this functionality relies heavily on connectors, things like your Gmail or your Outlook, and making sure those all work right. I've personally noticed that as I've worked to build these agents, sometimes it's going to ask for deeper permissions or re-authentication with your connectors so that it works right. But the gist here is that you're setting up an AI tool that has access to different systems and has a dedicated purpose, and this agent can run kind of on its own in many contexts to do things that are helpful for you. Now, a Chief of Staff agent, as an example, kind of sits here when I need to call it into action. I can go to my Chief of Staff agent and I can have it do some set actions at any time that I need it, like prepare today's brief or extract follow-ups, stuff like that. We're not going to dive much deeper in here, but I want you to explore this if you're a ChatGPT user and start to build some agents. And we'll maybe create a video to dive in on this from an AI skills perspective later. But let's keep moving. All right, in the Microsoft space, you hopefully are in love with Copilot Cowork, which is a big enhancement when it comes to what Microsoft's AI capabilities are. This is very similar or building on the infrastructure of Claude Cowork, and enhancements keep rolling out. For today, what I want to point out is just some real talk. So Cowork launched in the Frontier program. It's still in the Frontier program. but we can still use it, which is great. Last week, all the scheduled capabilities were gone for some reason. Don't know, right? But now they're back. We don't have the Kanban or Kanban view anymore, and some of the views have sort of changed. But generally, everything is kind of back to where it was when it first launched. The one change that is active today that you should probably know about is there are now some connectors that you can establish, and that's new to the Microsoft ecosystem, not new to AI. But it's not anywhere really intuitive. Like, I'm not looking for it here. I'm going to go down here to my three little dots in the bottom left-hand corner right now and go to Settings for Copilot All Up. And then I'm going to go to the Sources section, and here's where I can make those connections. This list hopefully will grow significantly and substantially pretty quickly. It's a pretty small list right now, but it's something you should know about and start connecting to if you have any of these tools. That will make your Copilot experience richer, and of course your Cowork experience much better. Now let's jump to Claude. We'll finish the day off in Claude. And there's always so much going on in the ecosystem. But today, let's just talk about Claude Design. Okay, that launched just a couple weeks ago, and the world is starting to figure out what's it good at, what can we use Claude Design for. And ultimately, it's a pretty flexible tool. And for the general knowledge work use case, while I can use Claude Design to make things like prototypes, what I ultimately see a lot of value in here is just better imagery and PowerPoints and things like that from Claude, who historically does not have an image generation tool and maybe struggles with some of these tasks. So to get there, let's go to Claude on the web, not the desktop. And over here on the left-hand menu, click on Design. And here we go. Here we go. Now I'm welcomed with a little bit of an intro here. What Claude Design works off of is a design system. That's a term that's very common in the UX or user experience, user interface world, a design system, or even in the marketing world. But maybe as a common knowledge worker, you don't use that a lot. It's basically a set of rules and guidelines around branding and how things visually work together and how they look. Claude Design is very powerful at building that. So either if you have one, you have your company's brand guidelines, UX guidelines, you can import them to Claude Design. If you don't have them, Claude Design can walk you step by step through that process, ask you questions, you can import documents and images and stuff like that, and it will develop a robust design system for you. What that does, it basically is like, I know how to design things that look the way you want them to look in your organization and in your context. And then it's like, what do you want to design? Okay, so you've seen this kind of roll through this intro. Let's get into design, and you can see I've already played around with a few things. On the left-hand side, you can prototype sites and apps and stuff like that. That's something you may do. I've done that a little bit. I had this experience where we're going to teach youth recently, and I wanted to design an app that they could use during our kind of workshop, and you see it mocked up 3 or 4 different kind of design and interface experiences for me. Okay, that was helpful, but if you're not doing a lot of code or stuff like that, maybe not so much. The one that I think will be really helpful is the slide deck experience, is come in and develop a slide deck with your company's design system. If you haven't built the design system, maybe someone in your organization will, and eventually your marketing team might create a very standardized one that they want you to use every time. I've done that a little bit here. I made my own design system that didn't subscribe to my company's design style, but I just grabbed a bunch of kind of outlined design things from the web. I gave that to the system here, and then I said, okay, make me a slide deck. And you can see here, it's gone through and developed a slide deck for me using that design system, and honestly got me in a really solid place with the presentation. Now, this presentation can be adjusted. One of the big benefits here is this kind of tweak capability in design where you can have it give a tweak that you want to make, and it'll make a slider, and you can go, well, I want it more professional or more approachable or stuff like that. So you're going to play with, this is just about experimentation, right? You're going to play with that. Once you've got something you want to use, you're going to come here to the Share tab, and here's where you can export it as a PDF or as a PowerPoint or send it to Canva and do some things there. Now, in my personal experience with Claude Design, I think there's a lot of power here that we have yet to sort of explore and unlock. If you're in a role that does a lot of design, I think you're going to be in a good position maybe a better position than most to take advantage of this tool. If you don't do a lot of design, I would recommend playing just maybe with the PowerPoint side of things and seeing where it takes you. My personal experience has been when I export it to PowerPoint, it ends up looking a little bit different or sometimes a lot different than what I see in Claude Design. And so that is a little bit disheartening because it feels like, oh man, I was close and now I'm farther away. You may also want to consider just exporting as a standalone HTML and having an HTML-based presentation. Just open up that file in a browser and you tab through it there rather than using something like PowerPoint. So there's a lot of options here. It's a little bit early, a lot to figure out and a lot to play with. But if you do a lot of design stuff, I think this is a tool you definitely want to get familiar with and understand the capabilities of. So much going on in AI, always. And I hope you take advantage of the opportunity to learn what each of these providers are doing, especially those that you have access to. Take some time to experiment with them, and let's make AI work at work.